This video is sponsored by Coursera. Coursera is the global online learning platform that offers anyone, anywhere, flexible and affordable access to online courses and degrees from 250 world-class universities and companies. All around the world, 82 million people so far have learned new skills thanks to Coursera, including myself. Find the course that suits you today. And so I'm back with another review today, and I will be talking about the Fujifilm 33mm f1.4. Now, I asked Fujifilm to send me this new lens to test it and decide whether to buy it to replace my 35mm f2 or not. And I've been using this lens almost exclusively for the past 2 weeks, or at least when the English weather wasn't absolutely miserable. And I think now I have a pretty good understanding of how this lens fits into my photography. Now, 14 days probably doesn't count as extensive use, but as a long-time professional photographer, I can assess pretty quickly if something at least works for me. Now, if you're pressed for time and only want the short version, is the Fujifilm 33mm f1.4 a good lens? Yes, it is a fantastic lens actually, but will it replace my 35mm f2? Probably not, or at least not too soon. Now, the 33mm f1.4 is twice as big and twice as heavy as the 35 f2, and the weight, to be fair, will still be negligible compared to DSLR lenses, for example. But I can carry with me the 23 f2 and the 35 f2 within the same space and weight of the 33. Now, it's a small difference, but it is relevant to me when I try to travel light, and it might be relevant to you as well. The 33mm is more than twice the price as well, but you get a better build quality and 2 extra stops of light. And if you're not already an owner of a 35mm f2, you should probably consider saving a bit more money and get this 33mm, because it's totally worth the price. Now, you might ask why I don't talk about the other 35mm lenses, the old 35 f1.4 and the new 35 Mark II. Well, the old one was the very first lens released for the Fujifilm X series, and it shows now. It's low, it's heavy, and doesn't have weather sealing. It was a great lens that still has plenty of enthusiastic users, but I would not recommend it today. And the new version, on the other hand, adds weather sealing as improved autofocus. But with the release of these 33mm, I think that Fujifilm has simply cannibalized their own market, because this lens is more precisely equivalent to 50mm and has similar features, so I would always recommend this lens over the 35. Now, actually, Fujifilm, you have now released 4 lenses that are kind of the same focal length, but you still avoid addressing the need of some photographers like myself to have a dedicated 105mm equivalent fast prime. Now, you gave us the 90mm f2 long ago, and it is to this day my absolute favorite lens, and I may do a separate video only for that. But when are you going to finally release a good and fast 70mm? Anyway, back to the 33mm. This is not a technical review. I'm not interested in glass elements, resolution charts and the lot. They matter to some extent to achieve the best quality, of course, but frankly I'm more interested in the experience of using a lens, and I judge it based on the capability to let me achieve the photos that I want. And in that regards, the 33mm f1.4 is a fantastic lens. It focuses really fast, and even in low light conditions it rarely struggles and hunts for focus, at least when I use it on my X-T4. But so does the 35 f2. The 2mm difference in the focal length are kind of unnoticeable, and it's pretty much like taking 1 or 2 steps back. And so it's the difference in less distortion. Now, if you're a purist, I mentioned this already, the 33 is the exact equivalent to a 50mm lens for a full frame, while the 35mm is more 52 or 53mm. But then again, I challenge you to notice a difference in a photo. I notice a slight difference when shooting video, with the 33mm being faster to readjust. So if you want to use this lens for video content, this might be a bonus point. And the 33mm is nice to use, with a satisfying aperture ring that clicks every step, and a lock button for the auto aperture feature that the 35mm doesn't have. So again, bonus point. Now, the real difference, the main difference, is in the amount of light that this lens lets in. Now, the larger size and the extra 2 stops of light are a huge benefit at night or generally in low light conditions. They help with keeping the ISO lower or using a faster shutter speed to freeze movement. And you also get a more shallow depth of field, which is noticeable with portraits. And I believe it also showed a bit more sharpness, but I don't have rigorous tests to show this to you to prove how sharp it is beyond reasonable doubt. It does look sharper to me, particularly when wide open, but here you can see some of the images I took with the lens, so you can be the judge. Now, what this lens really has, and it's something I only saw in the 56mm and even more in the 90, is character. Particularly when photographing people, this lens gives an extra oomph that makes the image very, very pleasing. It's a very flattering lens with great skin tones, so if I were exclusively a portrait photographer, yes, I would definitely switch to this lens. But in the street, this matters little to me, as I prefer to have less noticeable presence and more lightness, and as you may know, my subjects are often in the shade, so my images are less portraity, if you like. And despite my most recent videos, I don't shoot much at night, and I can also always easily recover 2 stops, even 3, in post with my X-T4. So again, I'm not making the switch myself, as of now. But if you're considering buying the 33mm and you shoot portraits and video, this is definitely the lens for you, 100%. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Would you buy it? Now, if you're curious about other Fujifilm lenses, I do reviews here on the channel, so don't forget to subscribe and maybe watch this other video too. Thank you, and I see you soon.